If music be the food of love, let it play on. Give me excess of it. That is the opening line to Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. Hello everyone, hello booktube, hello book friends, welcome back to my channel and another tag video, and this one is about high school required reading. And I have picked this tag because it fits very well with a personal project that I'm doing, which is rereading all of my secondary school books from what would have been my O-level English literature course, or at least all the ones I can remember, because I think I've probably forgotten some. And I think high school in America and secondary school in the UK are slightly different age groups. So what I'm talking about is the books that I read kind of between the ages of about 11 and 16, which is when, in my day, when we did O-levels, or what are they, GCSEs, that's the period I'm talking about. Now this tag was originally created by Nicole at Noteworthy Fiction and by Alex at Stay at Home Reader, and I was tagged by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. So thank you to all of you for creating the tag and tagging me. And I don't know quite when this is going to come out, because if you've watched previous video, you'll know I've got kind of various personal things happening at the moment. So it'll go up when it goes up. It may or may not be on a Tuesday. And we'll go from there. So yeah, I'm going to come back to this later, because this is an answer to one of the questions, but it's later on. But yeah, so let's get started. There are 11 prompts. Let's go. Prompt number 1, high school crush. Name a book you were assigned in high school and loved at the time. Have you reread it, and did it hold up? I've picked for this one, just by coincidence, it's another Shakespeare. And this is Macbeth by William Shakespeare. And yes, I loved this at school. And I have reread it, and relatively recently. I think last year I reread this last year. I've reread it a few times, but I think most recently was last year. And I have to say, and I think this is going to come out in a couple of my other answers, but I think partly the reason I loved this was because of the English teacher I had at that time. I think during the course of that 11 to 16 period, I think I had 3 different English teachers. One of them was absolutely fantastic. And funnily enough, I've been sorting through some photographs recently, and I found some that were taken when I was at school, and we went on a foreign exchange visit to France, which is quite a common thing for students at that period of their education. And there's a photograph of her, and I was quite like, wow, I don't know whether I think she probably is still alive, because looking at the photograph, I have a memory of her being much older than she obviously was. And I guess that's just one of those things that, when you're a kid, everyone over a certain age is ancient. And then when you're their age, everyone under a certain age looks like they should be at school, when, they're quite clearly, well past that age. But so she was such a brilliant teacher. And then I had others who were just, you know, didn't cut it with me. I didn't get on with them as well, and I think that makes so much of a difference. It's really hard as well because a lot of that is just personality and, you know, people rubbing you up the wrong way. I mean, I had one English teacher, there's another one I can remember, who was a great personality, really funny, just didn't get on with his teaching style. So anyway, but yeah, Macbeth. She also showed us, which probably they wouldn't do now. There's a Roman Polanski film of Macbeth, and Roman Polanski, the director, which was, have to say, for that age, was pretty graphic. And I don't think they would show you that today. So yeah, Macbeth, book I read, have reread, and loved it. Question 2, gym class. Name a book you were assigned that you hated. Have you, or would you give it a second chance? Well, funnily enough, and again, this is, I think, possibly because of a different English teacher. A book I really didn't get on with, a couple, and I'll talk about another one for another prompt. But one I really didn't get on with was Billy Liar by Keith Waterhouse. This is a comedy. Billy is a fantasist, I suppose, is what you best describe him as. Forever daydreaming, talking about, is it a town, an imaginary town or city called is it Ambrosia? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. And I really didn't get on with this. But my project, I am going to reread all the ones that I can remember at least, and just see. So I've now got a copy of this. So I will be rereading this at some point soon, and see if I think it's any different to, you know, what it was 40 plus years, nearly 50 years ago. Anyway, that's enough said about that. Number 3, gym class. Name a book you were oh no, I'm sorry, I've done that one. That's number 2. Number 3, locker combo. Is there a book you remember having to read, but can't actually remember? No, and no. I think I've got a pretty good memory of what I did read at school. There are obviously books that we read that, you know, I couldn't actually probably tell you specifically the titles, particularly some of the really early books before secondary school. But no, I don't remember any. So either I just don't remember them completely, it wiped them completely from my mind, or my memory is good enough that I've got them all probably in this pile on the desk here. 4, CliffNotes. Was there a book you were supposed to read but didn't? Yes, and what have I done with it? Had it here? Nope, nope, nope. There we go. I've put it right on bottom. This is another one, and again, another one with the English teacher. One of the English teachers I didn't get on with. Now, I wouldn't say that I didn't read it, but I would certainly say I wasn't paying attention at the time, and that's J.B. Priestley's An Inspector Calls. And this is a play, so it's not a novel. And again, I'm sure it's the teacher. I mean, I'm going to reread this. Again, I got that and Billy Liar together, and this is a fairly well loved copy because it's got notes and annotations in. So I am going to reread this and just see. But I would say I haven't read this, although I remember it, and I can remember broadly what the plot is. You know, I wouldn't say I've read it. What are we up to? 5? That was 4. Yeah, 5. Electives. Did you read just for fun? What books were you reading outside of your assignments? I most certainly did read just for fun. In fact, I probably read more books outside of the classroom than I read in the classroom. And I was reading things like Alistair MacLean. I was reading whatever novelisation I could get hold of for whatever movie or TV series was current. And I was also reading a lot of Sherlock Holmes. And the time I was at school, part of your English literature mark was it was on coursework, and you had to do what did they call it, a open study or personal study or something like that. And I chose to do it mine on the stories of Sherlock Holmes, and I think probably that saved me from failing English literature, because I'm just not very good at exams. But obviously, if it's like a coursework thing, I can, you know, spend time on it, write the essays, what have you. Just when somebody asks me, like, what's 2 plus 2, and I go, I don't know. But yeah, so I was reading a lot of Sherlock Holmes, which kind of crossed that interface between what I was reading at home and what we were supposed to be reading at school, at least. 6. What book would you replace from the typical assigned reading list? Now, as part of this project, I've been trying to find a copy of the reading list for when I was at school, and I just think it's disappeared. I'm sure it must exist somewhere. I just haven't been able to find a copy. Don't seem to be anything on the internet. I can find lots and lots of current versions, so current syllabus book lists. Can't find anything from back in the early 1980s when I was at school. So I'm fudging this question because I can see the current lists, and there are books that I know I've read that are no longer on the list. And I think I know why, and you've got to move. You can't keep reading the same authors for hundreds of years, or in my case 50 years has gone, and it's like, well, you can't keep can't read those books because they were modern literature fiction at the time. They're not now. Other authors um, hold that standard. So I would put back some of the books that were on my list onto the current list, because they're not even there as like the lists are broken down into like, these are the books we're going to teach, and then these are the ones that if you want to read something else, read these. And they're not even in there now. And I think that okay, how many books makes up a list? But 2 books that I would put back, which are 2 that I loved reading, and again, probably because of the English teacher, and I have reread and I still love, is Kestrel for a Knave by Barry Hines, or Kes, made into a fairly successful film, and Lord of the Flies by William Golding, which I reread, was it January this year, with Debs from Rainer Reed stuff, and we both enjoyed this book, and I think both of these, also because of this deals with kind of extreme poverty, abuse, and all sorts of things. This deals with what happens when things go out of control, basically. the social norms are removed, and people revert to type. And I think in both cases, you can draw parallels to what the hell is happening in the world right now. So let's moving on. Don't get too preachy, Alan. Teacher's pet, number 7. What book got you excited about reading for class? Again, a bit of a fudge. It wasn't a particular book. It was collections of poetry and First World War poetry. And we read lots. And it is still one of my other personal projects is about war poetry, conflict journalism, all sorts of, war artists, photographers, all of that sort of thing. So it stayed with me my entire life. So poems by Siegfried Sassoon in particular, poems by Rupert Brooke in particular, poems by Wilfred Owen in particular. All three of those authors are poets who I wanted to go to my English class to learn more about. Got me excited about English, got me excited about poetry. I would say my poetry knowledge is pretty limited, and probably pretty limited to conflict journalism and war poetry, to be perfectly honest, but it got me reading. Number 8. What was the most difficult book you read in high school, i.e. the one you spent most time studying? I think that was probably an Inspector Calls. And maybe that's why I dislike it so much, because this just seemed to go on and on and on. And it's not long. It's a play. It's like, I don't know, how long is it in here? Where's the index? Let's have a look. Does it say? Bear with me while I flick pages. So it's about... It's about 70 pages. So it's not, but it felt like it was going on for months. So yeah, that's what I would. Number 9. Nails on a Chalkboard. What was the book that made you groan when you found out you had to read it again? And we've come full circle. Back to 12th Night. I think we must have had a school holiday, whether it was a half term or one of the shorter holidays in the middle of studying this, because I have a fairly vivid memory of being sent away at the end of term, initially thinking we were done, and being told, like in the last lesson before the end of term, right, I want you to learn the first, the opening paragraph, the one, if music be the food of love, play on, and I want you to be able to come back and recite that to me without reading it. So we had to learn it, like you would a script, and it is a play, so fair enough. That was with the English teacher I liked. So yeah, and I can't do it now, but I can remember the first line and a half, and that's just, it's in there and it ain't coming out. Number 10, extra credit. What book do you think should be added onto every high school reading list? Well, I've talked about the books that I think are missing, that used to be on it when I was at school, and aren't now. But I think I would also, I'd like to add, we never had, I know it's English. It's not French or German or anything like, it's an English course. But we never had any books that were translated from a foreign language into English. And I would really like to have seen something like that, just, maybe, and we never did it the other way around either. We never had books in our French or German classes that were, that we then had to read. So we didn't read foreign literature in its native language. But I would, I don't know what would be suitable, because some of the books that I've read recently have been fairly chunky, and I think you don't really want a massive chunky book at O-level English where you're trying to teach maybe a book a term or whatever. But yeah, something like that. So that would be what I would add, and maybe it's there now, and I don't remember seeing it when I was looking at the syllabus. But yeah, so that's it. That's all. Oh no, there's a tag, people. Sorry. So then number 11, tag some people you'd like to hear answers from. I don't know when I'm going to post this. I might post it relatively quickly. If I do, I'll try and add some names in the description. But if it's going to be a while, I perhaps won't. So if you are watching this and you haven't done this tag and would like to, then fill your boots. If you want to tell me, what your answers to the prompts were in the comments, go ahead. I'd love to read, know what people were reading, particularly if, you're not, you're younger than me, and what you've, so if you've done your GCSEs, or is it still, it must still be GCSEs, in the last, 10 years or so, what was on your, what were the books that were on your list? What was your required reading? But yeah, let me know. As I say, this is a personal project for me, so I'm fascinated by what other people were reading, and what survives. Shakespeare survives for obvious reasons, but what else has escaped the passage of time, I guess. So yeah, if you have been, thank you for watching. Thank you to Nicole and Alex for creating the tag, and thanks as always to Pat for tagging me, and as I say, thank you to you guys for watching, and I will speak to you again next time. Take care. Bye bye.